Welcome to the Johnny Dell Football Academy podcast on the channel that's trying to answer the whys and hows of the game by talking through and dissecting game film and diving deeper to explain why the X's zig and the O's zag. I am Adam Marino, joined by Mr. Johnny Dell, and we are reminding you, as always, the most fun way to watch is on YouTube, where we go live. There you can comment into the live show. Be sure to hit the notification bell and turn on your notifications so you can be a part of the conversation. We also stream live on Facebook and X. Also, the audio versions are always found on Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcasts. Now, if you are live with us in the chat, it's probably because you are subscribed, you've hit the notification bell, and turned those notifications on. So, when sharing with your friends, be sure to let them know. We also love to hear from you outside of our live show. Email us at johnnydellsfootballacademy@gmail.com, and you can always check out the website jfa49.com, as it is the most fun way to support the channel. Also, the way we boost the chat and boost the algorithm is to type out hashtag. Welcome in. It is the day after Groundhog Day, or is it? Or is it the same day over again? I don't know. This is the Johnny Dell Football Academy. Of course, we are the channel that's trying to answer the whys and hows. I almost forget what to say. It's been a while since I wasn't able to go live with you. I feel like it's been 19 weeks, even though it's only been a week. But good morning, everyone. Thank you to everyone who is boosting the algorithm. Good to be back in our little virtual, room with everybody. Let's get into first, Johnny, just overall recap for those that missed your shows during the week with the Senior Bowl and everything, and just maybe a couple takeaways, and we'll get into some more Niner stuff.
Yeah, so got a couple videos that I'll be putting up here at our show at the end of the week, a couple interviews with some kids that I talked about most of the week. We had a great week down in Mobile. Just really a lot of great football. I mean, if you're looking for just a great week of football, the Senior Bowl is it. I mean, you get to be there.
Oh, not the Pro Bowl? You didn't mean the Pro Bowl?
No.
Oh.
Definitely. I would take the Senior Bowl 10 times out of 10 over the Pro Bowl. Look, and it's something I get it. You're into this point of they've been trying to do different outlandish things to try and boost the ratings and make more money. But I get their business. I just get really exhausted with the endless pursuit of money in everything with football. Sometimes it just needs to be a celebration of the year. And that's what the Pro Bowl used to be, right? It was a celebration of the year. It happened after the Super Bowl, so that the Super Bowl players that were there had something. It gave a little, high five. Everybody was in Hawaii. I mean, these guys are going to go on vacation. And so the thing now is see you in Cabo, and it used to be see you in Honolulu. And so I get that it wasn't the biggest ratings thing, but it was the final, the season is over. And I think it also helped with, teams like what we were in last year. When you lose a Super Bowl, it gave you something of, that sucks, but we can go watch this and just celebrate that we had a success, that everybody had a successful season in one way or another, that the best players, the truly best players in the league were there. Now you have guys are opting out all the time. You have anybody that's in the Super Bowl is not there. So it's not at all what it used to be. And I miss it. But the Senior Bowl is fantastic. Mobile does a great job of hosting the Senior Bowl. Really, really, and Mobile itself tries to take all the credit for it. A lot of it is the University of Southern Alabama. That university is in the midst of a lot of city down there. It's not like you just kind of go on campus and you're just on campus. Their student commons area is 6 blocks from the the stadium, and it's like driving through a normal city in that area. But the University of Southern Alabama does a great job hosting. They make sure we have the nachos when we need it. That their concessions are there. They do a great job of hosting all the traffic that's in the area, and just really opening their arms and have embraced the Senior Bowl for what it is. And it is truly a remarkable event for scouting. It's not just a tagline that the draft starts in Mobile. It's really, this is the premier event, or I guess opportunity for teams to scout players. Teams will change their opinion a lot. It's almost like I don't do any mock draft 1.0, coming into draft off season, because everything changes after the Senior Bowl. Everything changes. It just, every year it happens. Deebo Samuel was a kid out of South Carolina who was not seen as, maybe even really better than a third round pick, goes to the Senior Bowl. Kyle Shanahan is there, falls in love with him. He's picked in the high second round. You have this year somebody like Gray Zabel, who was looking at maybe a late second, early third, I think at the latest, but he was considered a good guard, but from a small school. Got to be careful with things like that. Doesn't play against a lot of premier tier talent at North Dakota State on the defensive line, and so he comes to the Senior Bowl and stonewalls everybody. It doesn't matter. It's Walter Nolan, it's Deion Walker, it's Tyrion Ingram Dawkins. It's everybody that he was put up against. Shamar Stewart. He wins and stonewalls them. And he shows out great in the team periods in the run game, and now has vaulted himself into most likely the end of the first, maybe even higher. He may have shown himself as the premier guard and premier interior offensive lineman of this draft. And so everything changes after the Senior Bowl. We saw that this week. And then you see some kids that, like a kid that I started falling in love with during the week. I spotted, he just jumped off the field. I mean, and again, I hate this phrase, eye test, but he did. You just see him walk around the field and you see him as an edge player, and he just has the prototypical body type of a premier edge player. Lean, long arms, fast, twitchy, everything just looks like a premier edge player. And that catches your eye. Okay, let's see how you do in these drills. Can you use those tools? And you see him not only use those tools, but get better as the week goes. And I was able to talk to him, and I didn't catch it on my video because I didn't want to kind of shark somebody else's interview, but the person who was interviewing him right before me had talked to him that he's only played edge this year. He's out of UCLA, Oluwafemi Oladejo. He's out of UCLA. He's only played edge this year. He was an off-ball linebacker. He played Mike linebacker before this year. And so he talked a little bit about his mindset of how, that attacking mindset and going and getting it is what he's brought to playing edge, but also how he's learning the nuances of playing the position. And so, it's one thing when you say, okay, Rock kid, I don't know, got a lot of physical upside, but we've seen this before where guys, they just don't work out, and they struggle with this transition. And so again, at the Senior Bowl, where you see somebody get better as they're being coached by KJ Wright, one of our coaches, that gets you really excited. That makes you go, okay, there's really something here. And to know that the 49ers, everybody meets with every player at the Senior Bowl and the Shrine Bowl. So, when there's this, have you met with the 49ers? Yeah, I've met with them. That doesn't tell you a lot. Okay. Every single player meets with every single team, but not every single player meets with every single team twice. And he met with the 49ers twice. So, that then is like, all right, there's something there. So just a great week. A great week of football and a great time. We had some great food. But glad to be back home. It's always nice to be back in your own bed and not at the comfort suites. So,
Right.
but just a great week of football, and really, I mean, there's a lot of talented kids in this draft. There's a lot of talented kids.
Yeah, we're going to be definitely talking more of the draft that is now February. It's like we are at, that snail's pace of like, okay, football. We want to get back to it. Um, so what's the latest with the pulse of the Niners? You've talked about Robert Saleh being back. That's kind of just a nice, refreshing piece of this offseason puzzle. As we are entering February, what are some things were that we should be looking for and trying to get excited about? And well, one thing first, Johnny, it is the Monday before the Super Bowl. I'm curious. We simply hate that it's on Sports Idiot Nation. We joke that it's the show that it's the Super Bowl that no one deserves. Like we didn't deserve this. We deserved better than we've already seen this. And all that to say, if it was Kansas City and San Francisco again, the entire country except for us would be like, oh, we already saw this. This is stupid. So I get it. Like only Philly and KC fans are like, yes, this is great. What's your take on the
I'm not
game?
watching
Is there
I
anything in
am not
particular?
watching this year's Super Bowl. I mean, I'm serious.
Not
I put
watch.
it on X after the AFC Championship game. I'm not watching the Super Bowl. I have no desire to see either of these teams win a Super Bowl. I really don't. No, and and it's like I remember I did not like the Patriots. I hated Tom Brady. That was my thing for a long time. And so but when the Patriots played the Seahawks, I hated the Seahawks so much more. I actually was like, you know what? I'm okay with Tom Brady winning another one if the Seahawks lose. Wasn't rooting for Tom Brady to win. I was rooting for the Seahawks to lose because I hated them that much. And I was willing to watch
Right.
just to watch them lose. I don't have that in this game. I don't have enough angst to watch one team
You
lose
want
to
both
deal with
teams
watching the
to
other
lose.
one win. Like
Right.
it is just that it's it yeah, I can't deal with that. So no, I am not watching this Super Bowl. And technician, just real quick sidebar back to yes, Steph interviewed Oluwafemi Oladejo. She interviewed him. You can check it out on her social medias and stuff. Her and Wayne were like we went out to lunch and I was real tired. We'd been in the sun all day and I needed to go back and start looking at some film. I was going to do a show with Rob Stats Guerrera and I needed to prep some film for that. And then I really was just wanting to get back and watch some tape on these guys. Cause what I was coming to is it came down to the interview periods and I never knew. I was like, I don't know what I want to go ask. Like, because you guys know me, I'm a film guy. I want to see things on film and that'll inform what I want to talk about. And I hadn't watched a lot of film on these guys. So I went back and I watched film on Georgia and Notre Dame and some Texas A&M for like 3-4 hours that night. They went to the media session that night. There was a dinner that they host where all the players are available. And so they went and did some quick interviews and Steph got the interview with him. And that's where Oluwafemi talked about that he had met with the 49ers for a second time. So yeah, that's where we're at. But I think the biggest news of the week, the biggest news of everything since the end of the season, Zach's got it here with the super chat.
We love Zach.
Robert Saleh. I think there was a little autocorrect that happened there because it says Selah, which is Hebrew for a thoughtful pause. But that Robert
You gave a
Saleh
thoughtful pause.
is back as defensive coordinator. That apparently Jed York was directly involved in the negotiations, according to Tim Kawakami, which we will talk about in a few minutes. Another report of his, but according to Tim Kawakami, that Jed York was directly involved in Robert Saleh's return as defensive coordinator.
That's awesome.
They were that much into everything with him, and Trent Baalke nearly screwed us again with causing some fireworks there in Jacksonville. with the disruptions of them not getting the coach they were really trying to go to. And then it kind of left things up in the air for us with Robert Saleh. But Robert Saleh is coming back. We will, at the end of the week, I'm going to go through a lot of the same film that I did with Rob, in case you missed that show. And we're going to talk about what is Robert Saleh bringing back to the 49ers defense that we haven't seen. And just watching that Jets film in my hotel room, I was getting excited. I was really getting excited for, this is what we have been missing. This is such a huge part of it. And so, yeah, Robert Saleh coming back. Fantastic news. 49ers. I mean, I like this offseason. I think the fallout from this bad season, if there's any sort of, silver lining sort of thing, is I feel like if you were going to have a bad season, this was the one to do it. Because of where the needs are. Well, not even that, but where the 49ers needs are, what were greatly illuminated as their needs, what the strengths are in this draft, and the changes that needed to happen on the coaching staff. So we'll start with that of Nick Sorensen. This greatly illuminated Nick Sorensen was not the defensive coordinator of the future. He's probably a great human being, probably a good coach, but it's different when you have to lead a whole staff, when you have to put together cohesive game plans and be able to communicate to your staff exactly what they need to communicate to their players, and to install these things, to going back to understanding that what has to be installed in what days at what times, because you can't get to a lot of installs during the year, especially not into November and December. When it comes November and December, you're doing walkthroughs. This is not the time to start installing new stunts, new twists that require full speed footwork. That is not the time to do it. You can't do it. And when you have these injuries, you're now behind the 8 ball. And so these things have to come in during the off season, during your OTAs, during your mini camps, during training camp. That's when those things have to be installed, and installed at the correct times. And it just felt like to me, it felt like they never got to the install of the disguises and exotic packages. It was like they never got there during the offseason, and then just never got to it during the season. So, seeing what Saleh has done and knowing that he can do that and has done it before here, fantastic news. So wonderful. Then moving to, we really were illuminated to the needs at center and guard. And I think there's several good options in this draft and free agency. Caldwell, or I think it's Caldwell, the kid from Atlanta. I keep saying kid because I'm 40 years old and I've been around these college guys all week long. But the guy from Atlanta, I think is a free agent target at center that they're going to go after. And he's a really good center, and I think somebody that can be an immediate upgrade over Jake Brendel. And Shanahan is notorious for not trusting rookies with the center position. So, knowing that they can go get him, and there's a kid I really liked all week. Brad really liked him too. The guy was rocking the belly out all week long at practices. Had that jersey pulled up under his chest piece. But a kid from Sacramento State. So Dahlman, that's what it is. I keep saying Caldwell. But I knew it was those letters in there. That from Sacramento State. So a California kid, not too far from San Francisco, Jackson Slater. He's another small school kid who showed up and really showed he could play. And it was, again, throughout the week, showed he could play. And I think one of the best reps he had, and again, this is why the Senior Bowl is so great, is that when Walter Nolan, who is somebody that many are projecting to the 49ers at the number 11th overall pick at defensive tackle. Personally, I don't know if they're going to go that direction. I just don't. I'm feeling Mike Green, but that's just me. Now, Mike Green, apparently, we're going to have to see how this shakes out. Apparently might have an off-field that incident that is going to be a negative on him coming into this draft. But Walter Nolan on Jackson Slater, one-on-ones, and Jackson Slater absolutely held up. He beat him with quickness. He held up and anchored in pass pro. That tells you this is a kid that can handle the most physically imposing defensive tackles that there are. And so you love that is so valuable because he never faced anybody like that at Sac State. Just never did. And so, but as a kid that's probably going to be there in the late second, maybe the third round, because he's got some short arms. That's usually a knock. Is I think his arms came in at 33 and a half. And so kind of a Bakhtiari is his body type, is what he reminds you of, David Bakhtiari. But so like you see that, okay, now we have the ability to address the interior offensive line. That was a huge issue, and we needed to know that Banks was not the guy for the future. And Chris Verster talked about him struggling with his weight projection, or his weight throughout the offseason and into the season. Okay, that tells you this is a guy you don't want to give a second contract to, because that issue is only going to get worse. And it was affecting his footwork. So you found that out now, not next year when you're all in for a Super Bowl. And then you see that defensive line is deficient in talent, severely deficient in talent. And this is an extremely deep defensive line class coming out, extremely deep. I have, in the last 2 years of the Senior Bowl, I haven't even seen a defensive line class close to as good as what this one was. I mean, absolutely stacked with talent. Just because we don't spend a first on a defensive tackle does not mean the 49ers can't get a very, very good defensive tackle. So, this is setting up as the perfect situation for the season that we had, the issues that we had, and into an offseason where you have the perfect circumstances to address every single one of those in spades.
Yeah, sounds exciting, and I echo what Glass City says. That's why I'm remaining cautiously optimistic. All this sounds too good to be true. We had the same feeling going into 2021, but I again, like when you have such a bad season, and now you look at the schedule, our fourth place schedule, Greenlaw, for example, being healthy, and like guys like that being healthy going into it, it's like there's a lot to think about as far as things going our way, and so that's always fun to think about. Shout out to everyone still remembering to juice the algo. So again, remember hashtag JD49 if you haven't done that. One thing I'll say about the Super Bowl, well, two things. First of all, when you mentioned Trent Baalke, the first thing I thought of was their new coach. Instead of saying Duval, he had a
Duval.
oh my lord. Was that the like I just want to have that like on like repeat. It's so funny that he is so clueless, and it's like, oh man, like he's just getting bashed in all the chats, the AFC South chats. He's getting
Bro.
so bashed. It's just hilarious. And then about the Super Bowl, the reason I'll watch is because also I think it was Glass City that said I can't stomach the idea of Sirianni getting a Super Bowl over Shanahan. And so I truly would rather have KC win, because my hatred for KC is more that they always freaking beat us. It's not because I don't like Andy Reid's fat face. It's I don't like Sirianni's smug face. Like Andy Reid has a fat face, Nick Sirianni has a smug face. I
Yeah, I
want
mean, he's
to
super
punch
smart.
Sirianni.
Like, he's
There's a
super smart.
difference.
I guess for me, I wouldn't mind seeing Saquon get one. It. I think it would go a long way towards him having a Hall of Fame career, and I think he's a Hall of Fame caliber player. So,
Yeah.
if not, he might just be another Priest Holmes. And so people forget Priest Holmes ran for like 1,700 yards, I think twice. Um, and
Right.
so,
With Kansas City.
um, yeah, and so it's just I don't want to talk about the Super Bowl anymore. I'm
Yeah.
not.
Anyway, that's all that to say is why I would want Kansas City to win is for that factor. I just don't want like Saquon made his choice and it was to go with Sirianni, so screw him. So I just don't want them to win. Anyway,
No. Now, Joe Schoen made the choice for Saquon to go there because he didn't think Saquon was worth more than 12.5 a year.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, that like I have no problem with Saquon going to who paid him most. I have a
Right,
big
right.
issue with the Giants sitting there saying, we're gonna let a top 2, 3 running back in the league and a generational type player out the door because we don't want to pay him 12.5 when the 49ers are paying Christian McCaffrey 19. No, that that that's just Moneyball in a bad way.
Right. Christian Kirk is making more money than Saquon Barkley. It makes absolutely no sense. Like, and there's like 10 other receivers who are
Yeah.
making more money. But so yeah. Anyway, I am interested to see the halftime show. I like hip hop enough to be excited about it. And the Super Bowl commercials, I'm always interested to see like which one really sticks. And it's more of an
Eh,
event for me.
you can catch up on the Super Bowl commercials afterwards.
And
They
that's fair. And
they
that's
they
fair.
even they even do they still do it? They used to do a show that was literally just Super Bowl commercials.
I don't know. I don't know. I will say tune in to this week's episode. We obviously released one today as we do every Monday and Thursday, but this Thursday's episode at Sports Edit Nation will be strictly Super Bowl entertainment. So commercials and halftime shows of the past, some of your favorites. So definitely if you want to reminisce on Bud Wise and things like that, that's definitely the show to catch is this Thursday. Okay, so let's get back to Niners, and at some point, I'm just gonna say Brock Purdy's name and then just let you go.
Well, I mean, that was it. So last week, Tim Kawakami dropped in an article some things, and he said, according to a plugged in NFL source, and what that usually means from Tim is plugged in, is that means that is somebody either connected to the 49ers or that is somebody connected to Brock Purdy and his agent. That is where it's going to be as a plugged in NFL source. So this is not something we can just dismiss. This is probably very much coming from the horse's mouth. That the indication, he said, the indications are that Purdy and the 49ers both are feeling there won't be any fireworks leading up to a long-term deal. But I'm hearing the framework might be a little different than recent big quarterback agreements, which could take some time to hash out. That is what he said. Now, from there, he went on to speculate. He says, I suspect. So that is the break. That's the point where he says, okay, this is what my sources said. Now here's what I think that fully means. That it's going to be more of a Daniel Jones type contract. And that I think in kind of sent some shockwaves through, because the initial question is, okay, if they're not willing to make him, because the Daniel Jones framework, if we go back to, it was one of a contract where it wasn't going to be an immediately top of the market APY deal. And so, it starts to make you go at first, okay, do they not fully believe in Brock? Is that what this means? And it's a valid question when you hear something like that.
Yeah.
Now, as I've kind of had time to chew on it and think about it, talk with some people, there's a couple things I think are going on here. One, I think the 49ers are putting this out. That's first and foremost. I think that is they did this on the condition that it doesn't come out that it's from the 49ers. And what I'm hearing on my end is that the 49ers are trying to leverage, and this is how they go about it. We've seen this is how they go about every one of their contracts. They try and leverage a player in. And that, as far as I understand, they started trying to leverage on Brock at least through the middle of this season in preparation for this upcoming offseason. And so I think this is part of that. Now, I think kind of just reflecting over the last 4 months of the Brandon Ayuk situation, And then kind of getting some pieces of that, of what was happening in that from other people. I feel like the 49ers need to stop trying to, and especially Lynch and Shanahan need to stop trying to leverage everybody, because they end up leveraging themselves in the end.
Right.
That, as far as I understand, they really ended up hosing themselves on the Brandon Ayuk situation and ended up paying quite a bit more than what he was initially asking for at the very beginning. And so, because there was reports after the Brandon Ayuk signing that Jed York was really upset with how much they paid him. And when you put that together with some of the things that you hear, you go, okay, I can really understand why, because he would be saying, if you had done this 7 months ago, we could have saved a lot of money and put that towards other things in our roster. And that's where I get frustrated here and say, okay, part of me says this is from the 49ers that is putting out something to begin that leveraging. And so you have to pay attention to the wording. It's very close. They don't foresee, neither side foresees any fireworks. So that's them putting out there and saying, every indication we've gotten from Brock is that Brock doesn't want to drag this out. Brock doesn't want to make this a real contentious thing. This is, because what was the story near the end of the Brandon Ayuk contract, and especially really even after the first month or so, it was Brandon Ayuk was wanting out. He was requesting a trade, and that he was watching Commanders film, that he was almost traded to the Steelers, and that there was reports that him and Shanahan were getting into screaming matches in the building. And you go, okay, they're trying to get ahead of that. They don't want anything like that. But it's going to take some time to hammer out. Makes you go, okay, they're not expecting this to be over soon. And what I expect is that they're going to go out in free agency, get an established veteran as somebody, not even to be like, okay, if Brock gets hurt, we can still win some games. I think they're going to go out and try and get an established veteran just to leverage against him and say, we are okay with you missing some games if you don't sign, because we went and got somebody, and we're going to give them the chance to prove themselves like a Sam Darnold if you don't sign your contract. And when you put it together with, watching Brock force the ball in moments, I thought, we talked about it. I would say he's playing a little bit too much hero ball. Then you start hearing some of the things, you go, oh, okay, that makes sense. Brock knew that they were already starting to try and get things in place to leverage on him, and he was trying to prove things, and he was forcing it. That contract's in the back of his mind. What I think they need to do, they need to get this contract done as soon as possible. And look, even if it's okay, we're not going to go with the Trevor Lawrence type deal. $55 million a year, $200 million guaranteed, $355. So 66% in fully guarantees. Now, does that mean that they can't walk away from him? No, because it's like guaranteed base salary. It wasn't, Trevor Lawrence's contract wasn't one where, there's these massive dead cap hits. They let themselves, after 2027, they can walk away from Trevor Lawrence. They could just straight cut him and they're fine. The Jaguars can. And so, they're looking at, okay, we've really committed to him for 3 years, and that's where we're at as a team. I think that's the way that most contracts are set up anyways. And it just becomes about petting a guy's ego for APY and full guarantees. I think what the contract that makes sense to me, from what I'm hearing, and I think that Brock would be okay with, is something more like the Kirk Cousins deal. That's what I think. I think Kirk Cousins' deal, that's a good comp for Brock, for some of the things he's done, and it's one that, when Kirk Cousins signed it, you're expecting a top of the market APY deal, and it wasn't. But it was a shorter term, but really high guarantees through those first 2 years. because then that allows the player to renegotiate after a few years. So the player can bet on himself, also get a huge guaranteed bag, and it really in the end comes out to about the same amount of money cash paid out over those first 2-3 years, which is the biggest deal, as the other deals. So it doesn't, it's one that if a player's okay with, I don't need to have that, top highest paid quarterback APY against my name, as long as I'm making the first 3 years cash that everybody else is, I'm good. That's what sounds like, what it sounds more like. So, you look at Kirk Cousins' deal, it was $180 million, a 4-year, $180 million deal, $90 million fully guaranteed. His cash payout at signing, and this is the big deal, was $62.5 million. So that is a big signing bonus. They gave him a $50 million signing bonus. And then they guaranteed another $40 million in that. And there's a couple roster bonuses that he gets as well near the back end. So it's really a 2-year, kind of prove it deal, but that he doesn't have to renegotiate after 2 years, after 3 years. That this can be a 3-year contract. And really, this sets Brock up to then renegotiate so that's where his guarantees were in. It was a $50 million signing bonus, and then they fully guaranteed the first 2 years of his salary for $90 million. So 50% of his contract, $90 million, fully guaranteed, and that brings his full cash payout over the first 2 years to $90 million. So he gets those fully guarantees paid out in the first 2 years. That is the biggest deal. And his first 3 years of cash payouts in Kirk Cousins' contract from 24, 25, 26 is actually higher than the first 3 years of Trevor Lawrence, of Tua, of Jordan Love, these other big top of the mark contracts. There's more cash paid out in Kirk Cousins' contract than there is in theirs, which are higher APY. So that's what we mean when we say APY really doesn't matter. And that's the sense I'm getting, is that Brock is okay with the APY not being there and it being a structure more like this. But I do still think the 49ers are going to be trying to leverage on him, and that's what's going to take time to work out. So I am seeing people saying that Myles Garrett has requested a trade. I don't blame him. Right, I don't blame him at all. That is, let's just take a look
wasted
here
talent
at Myles Garrett's contract, because I just want to see if this is what the cap hits would be here. Just give me 1 second. Oh. Yo. You want to know what his cap figure would be in 2025 if he was traded?
Yeah.
1.255. About about $4 million.
Wow.
Yeah.
Doable.
Just under $4 million would be Myles Garrett's cap hit if he was traded.
Do you even want to start thinking about if you had Myles Garrett on one
with
side
Nick Bosa?
and what are we?
Now here's the thing. You would need to give him a new contract. He's not playing on that contract. So so he's got 2 years left on his contract. He's been paid the bulk of his cash has been paid out already. So he would be going into 2025 and 2026 only. Well, he's got other bonuses, which I haven't seen exactly what those bonuses are. It's not here right now. He's been paid something like 70% of his cash from this contract. And so it's under other bonus this year, 3.708 million. In 2026, other bonus 8.448. So those are not bonuses that he's gotten already. Those would be things like a roster bonus or guaranteed per game roster bonuses that are included, or workout bonuses or something. And and they've got these also through the void years, which is a little interesting. But his base salary in 2025 is 1.225 or 1.255, and in 2026 1.3. So that is that's a very doable contract. Here's the question, to get a Garrett, you're probably looking at 2 first rounders. Are you willing to sacrifice this year's first round pick and next year's first round pick, and then give Myles Garrett an extension while you're trying to also sign Brock here? God, I mean, if you're all in for a Super Bowl, that's the move. like if you're all in for a Super Bowl, that's the move. That is the move. I mean, good grief, that's something. But you would take at least 2 first rounders, because if you traded for Myles Garrett right now, you would be asking the Browns to eat almost $17 million in dead cap.
Yeah, but the Browns are stupid. Like, I can name you 19
Well,
moves
okay, they are,
did.
but just because somebody's stupid doesn't mean they should be even more stupid.
Stupid is, stupid does.
Right. Like, I mean, that they're just going to say, well, we're just the dummies there, so we'll continue being dumb. Looking at the Browns, like the Browns, the Browns don't have cap space to eat. Like this would put them in the red. Like they would not save money in any way. This would put them farther in the red than they are now. So they are $30 million over this year's cap right now, and this would push them to being $46 million over this year's cap right now. And so, this is why they can't cut Deshaun Watson, because cutting Deshaun Watson would push them, again, supposing Garrett gets traded. If that happens, and then you cut Deshaun Watson, you would then move to being $73 million over the cap. Like you would go from being $30 million to $73 million over the cap by trading Myles Garrett and cutting Deshaun Watson. That's how bad their situation is. And that's how bad the Deshaun Watson situation. Deshaun Watson is a $73 million cap figure this year. Like, that is wild. Nobody in the NFL cost $73 million against the cap. And it's not even close.
Yeah. That's Brown's gonna Brown.
They are. And
they're a red franchise.
Like they just don't have a lot to bargain with. I mean, their best bargaining chip is Jack Conklin, their right tackle. They could cut him or trade him and save about $4.5 million. But I mean, they don't have a lot of good options. They don't have a lot of high base salaries. I mean, they're going to have to restructure Denzel Ward. They're going to have to restructure Greg Newsome. But they don't have a lot of base salary options. Like their options for clearing this cap are just not good. So they are in a serious hole here. But yeah, apparently my audio is going in and out.
Well, is it me? I don't know. You sound fantastic to me.
Well, I hope so. But anyways, breaking topic there. We weren't planning on talking about Myles Garrett.
Right.
But here it is with Myles Garrett. I mean, he is that is something. I just realized I did not set my camera to high definition. I still had it set to standard definition from when I was
2000 late.
Well, look, it was actually because of the really horrible Wi-Fi in the hotel. What's crazy was, so I brought my other screen here. The last night I set up my secondary screen as my primary and moved my laptop like 4 feet. That was it, closer to the door, and had like 60% better Wi-Fi. It was crazy. But I mean, I'm good. I have to think about this one. Would I be okay in a year that you have the number 11 overall pick? I mean, if the Browns were going to trade him and try and get a premier defensive line talent to replace him, this is the draft to do it. I think there's some really good guys there. I'm gonna have to think about that one. I mean, my knee jerk is like, yes. I mean, it's Myles Garrett. Like you're talking about him and Nick Bosa, the two most premier edge
Ramirez
rushers,
Mostis.
edge rushers, edge players in the league. So, gosh, man, that'd be something nice to think about. We all really really got excited about the prospect of Brian Burns and Nick Bosa. The prospect of Myles Garrett and Nick Bosa. I mean, just book the Super Bowl. Like, just book it right there. Like, secure it. Just give the 49ers the Lombardi then. Man, that'd be
fun to think about.
It is fun to think about.
I love Dawn checking in as we are checking out. That's always fun. Hi, Dawn. Hope you have a good week. I know she's glad to get her hubby back and the kids as well. Remember, I would be remiss if I don't remind you guys to, I did this last week. I even texted Johnny a picture that I was at a bar and a guy was wearing a Niners hat. So I walked over to him. And said, "Hey man, I see you're a Niner fan." And he's like, "Yeah, the offensive line sucks." Like, he didn't even say hi to me. He just started getting into it. It was hilarious. I'm like, "Well, hey," I showed him my phone. He's like, "Oh, that's really cool." So I forgot his name. I was going to give him a shout out and I didn't. I don't think I asked him his name. But in Fort Wayne, Indiana, we did find another 49er fan. So that's always good. Be sure to show your phone to someone that you see wearing Niners gear and show them the channel. Find your favorite video and say, "Hey, check out this video." That video probably has over 10,000 views on it as you show it to someone. And so it makes it even more legit. Thanks, Dawn. So yeah. Are we thinking, I mean, there could be a lot of stuff that happens between now and Friday, to be honest. If there is, maybe we should plan to go on Friday. You
Look,
never know.
if we trade for Myles Garrett, we are going live within a reasonable amount of time. I won't say within the hour because I may be somewhere where I'm more than an hour away from my office, but we will be a reasonable amount of time. Like we're not going to be sitting on that one and be like, well, let's talk about this in a couple of days.
Yeah.
Something happened.
So stay tuned, which is another reason to hit the notification bell and make sure that you're notified, because you never know when we're going to go live based on what is happening in and around the NFL and in and around Santa Clara.
Well, let's also temper this with just as my mind's thinking about it. Look, it won't be through the week. The Super Bowl hasn't even happened yet. The season's not over. You know, the trade deadline passed. Technically, we're still in the 2024 season. So a trade can't happen until March 10th.
Yeah.
I think that's when the new league year
Mario
starts.
Day.
So, you know, it's a little over a month. A lot of things can change over the next 5 weeks. But
yeah,
it's a lot of time for Lynchy to head over to Cleveland and walk into the Browns building with a big briefcase of cash and say, "What do we got to do here?"
Get Kevin Costner on the line. What was the draft day?
Yeah, draft day.
So yeah, again, be sure to hit the notification bell so you can be notified when we drop new episodes, because life happens and you never know when we're gonna go live. So again, thanks for everyone hanging out again. Great chat today as always. So in the meantime and in between time, stay safe, stay healthy, and as always, go Niners.